Hello and welcome live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. The Hamas defies Donald Trump's ultimatum, says the US president's repeated threats encourage Israel to evade ceasefire terms. France's Macron offers extending nuclear umbrella to Europe as the EU leaders meet to discuss the rearm plan in Brussels. Germany's Scholz says shouldn't give up on the US's involvement in nuclear deterrence. And the Kremlin says Macron doesn't want peace. Russia's foreign minister says his nuclear rhetoric is a threat to Russia. First up, in the latest update from West Asia, the Hamas has accused US President Donald Trump of using repeated threats against Palestinians to support Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to disregard the fragile ceasefire. In a text message, Hamas's spokesperson has said, and I quote, "The best track to release the remaining Israeli prisoners is by the occupation going into the second phase and compelling it to adhere to the agreement signed under the sponsorship of mediators." President Trump has issued a stern threat to the Hamas with severe consequences if hostages are not freed. US Hostage Affairs Envoy Adam Boehler has been authorized to talk directly with the Hamas, a big departure from decades-old policy against negotiating with groups that the US brands as terrorist organizations. Meanwhile, the US has vehemently rejected the alternative Gaza reconstruction plan proposed by Arab leaders, citing inadequacies of the proposal to address the uninhabitable realities of Gaza. Trump is endorsing Gaza free from Hamas vision. More in this report.
US President Donald Trump delivered a stern ultimatum to Hamas, demanding release of all remaining hostages in Gaza or face destruction. In a forceful statement, Trump wrote, and I quote, "Salom Hamas means hello and goodbye, you can choose. Release all of the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all of the dead bodies of the people you have murdered, or it's over for you. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you are sick and twisted. I'm sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. Not a single Hamas member will be safe you don't do as I say. I have just met with your former hostages whose lives you have destroyed. This is your last warning. For the leadership, now is the time to leave Gaza while you still have a chance. Also to the people of Gaza, a beautiful future awaits, but not if you hold hostages. If you do, you are dead. Make a smart decision. Release the hostages now, or there will be hell to pay later." In another development in a significant break from the decades-old policy, the US President Donald Trump administration has been conducting secret talks with Hamas to negotiate the possible release of American hostages. Talking to Hamas breaks a long-standing taboo against negotiating with groups the US sees as terrorist organizations. White House said US Hostage Affairs Envoy Adam Boehler has the authority to talk directly with Hamas.
Well, when it comes to the negotiations that you're referring to, first of all, the special envoy who's engaged in those negotiations does have the authority to talk to anyone. Israel was consulted on this matter. And look, dialogue and talking to people around the world to do what's in the best interest of the American people is something that the president has proven is what he believes is good faith effort to do what's right for the American people.
Besides this, European nations unequivocally stated that Hamas must be stripped of its governing role in the Gaza Strip. On Tuesday, Egypt presented Gaza reconstruction in the Arab League summit in Cairo, which was outrightly rejected by Israel. However, Hamas has welcomed the Arab proposal to rebuild the Gaza Strip under a future Palestinian Authority administration. The plan is also seen as a counter to President Trump's proposal for US control and resettlement of Gaza's residents. Earlier in February, President Trump posted a AI-generated video promoting the transformation of Gaza into a Gulf state-like resort. Under the redevelopment plan for Gaza, he wants to clean out the population of about 2 million people to create the Riviera of the Middle East. Aman Kumar Himanshu's report for DD India.
And Israel's government has initiated proceedings to dismiss Attorney General Gali Baharav Miara, who was a vocal critic of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. On Wednesday, Israeli Justice Minister said the move was over inappropriate conduct and prolonged disagreements between the government and the Attorney General. Baharav Miara, a fierce defendant of the judiciary's independence, has often taken positions that clashed with Netanyahu's government. German Conservative leader Friedrich Merz met with other leaders of the European Union on Thursday after talks with the Commission's President Ursula von der Leyen and Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas. EU Council President Antonio Costa received Merz on Thursday ahead of a European Union summit on Ukraine, at which Chancellor Olaf Scholz is representing Germany. Merz met NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in Brussels on Wednesday as Germany considers a major funding boost for Ukraine. After pausing military aid to Ukraine, the US has now cut off its intelligence sharing with Kyiv as well, curbing its ability to target Russian forces. The move raises significant pressure, pushing Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to come to the table for negotiations. French President Emmanuel Macron has offered to extend the country's nuclear deterrent to its partners, while EU leaders gather in Brussels for a special summit to discuss the Ukraine crisis. Here's more.
In a fresh move to increase significant pressure on Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to cooperate in a peace deal, the United States has cut off its intelligence sharing with Ukraine, impacting Kyiv's ability to defend itself from Russian forces. Since the war began in 2022, US intelligence has been vital to Ukraine's battlefield strategy. Marking a significant shift in US policy, CIA Director John Ratcliffe confirmed the decision on Wednesday. US is also reconsidering its pause in funding for Ukraine, which was announced by Donald Trump.
I believe what the National Security Council told me in regards to that was that they paused or they are reconsidering the funding for Ukraine.
Ukrainian President Zelensky hailed the announcement, calling it a positive movement in talks with Washington, hinting at a potential high-level meeting soon. On Tuesday, while addressing the US Congress, Trump revealed that he had received a letter from Zelensky signaling Kyiv's willingness to engage in peace talks.
Everyone can see how quickly diplomatic events are unfolding. Today, our teams, Ukraine and the United States, have begun working on a meeting. Andrei Yermak and Michael Waltz have spoken, and there is a positive movement. We hope for the first results next week.
4 senior members of Donald Trump's entourage held telephonic conversation with some of the Ukrainian president's top political opponents and discussed the possibility of Ukraine presidential elections. After US announcement, European leaders extended their support for Ukraine. French President Emmanuel Macron announced that he would discuss extending France's nuclear deterrent to European partners and raised the possibility of sending European troops to Ukraine to enforce a peace deal.
As soon as next week, we will gather in Paris army chiefs who wish to take their responsibility in this matter. And so this is a plan for a solid, lasting, verifiable peace which we have prepared with the Ukrainians and several European partners, and which I defended in the United States 2 weeks ago and across Europe. And I would like to believe that the United States will stay by our side, but we have to be ready if this isn't the case.
European Union leaders hold a special European Council summit in Brussels on Thursday, aimed to endorse bold steps to increase defense spending and pledge support for Ukraine amid growing concerns the continent can no longer be assured of US security. Bureau Report, DD India.
And in the meantime, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has expressed his support for continued US involvement in European nuclear deterrence. He made these comments in Brussels during the EU summit on the Ukraine crisis. The German leader emphasized the importance of the existing nuclear involvement, saying that it should not be abandoned. This comes in the wake of France's offer to extend the protective umbrella of its nuclear arsenal to its European partners.
We must ensure with a cool and intelligent head that the support of the United States is also maintained in the coming months and years, because Ukraine is also dependent on their support for its defense. This must also be the most important task in the coming days in order to guarantee the conditions for a just and fair peace.
It would be pertinent to mention that he is the outgoing Chancellor and the incoming Chancellor is Friedrich Merz, and we'll be listening from him later on as well. Now, the Kremlin condemned what it called a highly confrontational speech by French President Emmanuel Macron, in which he called Russia a threat to Europe and said Paris would consider putting other countries under its nuclear protection. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said the French leader's comments were an indication that Paris was looking to prolong the conflict in Ukraine. And Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that the French president's nuclear rhetoric poses a threat to his country.
Of course, this is a threat to Russia. If they consider us a threat, if they call a meeting of the chiefs of general staff of European countries and Britain, if they say that it is necessary to use nuclear weapons, to prepare to use nuclear weapons against Russia, this is of course a threat.
Lavrov further said Moscow would regard European peacekeepers deployed to Ukraine as the official involvement of NATO forces in the war against Russia. Britain and France have floated the idea of sending a European peacekeeping contingent, a coalition of the willing, so to speak, to Ukraine after any peace deal is secured. It's worth noting Moscow has made similar comments before the UK and US sent long-range missiles to Ukraine to strike targets inside Russia. Trump has also claimed Vladimir Putin had no problem with European peacekeepers being sent to Ukraine. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is also in Brussels for this extraordinary EU summit that we referred to earlier. He is seeking further support amid the ongoing conflict with Ukraine. At the summit, Zelensky met with EU leaders, including European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President Antonio Costa. He thanked European nations for their continued support.
You made a strong signal to Ukrainian people, to Ukrainian warriors, to civilians, to all our families, and it's great that we are not alone. We feel it and we know it. Thank you so much for everything.
The US on Wednesday granted a one-month exemption on Donald Trump's new tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada for US automakers. The pause comes after Trump spoke with leaders of the big three automakers, Ford, General Motors and Stellantis, on Wednesday. The White House said the US is also open to hearing about other products that should be exempted from the tariffs, which took effect on Tuesday. Farm products could be included in that category.
We spoke with the big three auto dealers. We are going to give a 1-month exemption on any autos coming through USMCA. Reciprocal tariffs will still go into effect on April 2nd, but at the request of the companies associated with USMCA, the president is giving them an exemption for 1 month so they are not at an economic disadvantage. So the three companies that he spoke to are Stellantis, Ford, and General Motors. They requested the call, they made the ask, and the president is happy to do it. It's a 1-month exemption.
And Wall Street stocks rallied after the announcement, with shares of the three automakers each surging about 6% or more. The American Automotive Policy Council said it applauds Trump's move. So a month-long reprieve for these automakers in America. Japan and Britain are arranging to hold high-level economic security talks on Friday until US tariff reared their ugly head. Now, this will be the first time for Japan and the UK to hold a 2+2 meeting focused on economic matters. Both are US allies, but that factor is not likely to exempt them from Donald Trump's sweeping levies on major trading partners. Joint talks between the countries' foreign and trade ministers in Tokyo this week have been touted as a chance to promote free trade and strengthen business ties in sectors from tech and defense to renewable energy. The UK Foreign Office said in a statement that economic growth and future prosperity depend upon strong security foundations, a reliable trading system and an economy resilient to shocks. South Korea and the United States will begin their annual Freedom Shield military exercise from Monday amid rising threats from North Korea, informed Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff. The joint drills aim to strengthen the readiness of the alliance for realistic threats such as North Korea's military strategy and tactics, according to JCS's statement. The joint military exercise will end on the 20th of this month. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar says India is waiting for the return of the stolen part of Kashmir, which is under illegal Pakistan occupation in the UK. Prime Minister Narendra Modi emphasizes making Uttarakhand a year-round tourism destination in the country.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Wednesday spoke about steps taken by the government for the development of the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Responding to a question from a member of the audience at the Chatham House in London, Dr. Jaishankar said that India is waiting for the return of the stolen part of Kashmir, which is under illegal Pakistan occupation.
On Kashmir, actually we have done, I think, a good job solving most of it. I think removing Article 370 was step number one. Then restoring growth and economic activity and social justice in Kashmir was step number two. Holding elections, which were done with a very high turnout, was step number three. I think the part we are waiting for is the return of the stolen part of Kashmir, which is on the under illegal Pakistani occupation. When that's done, I assure you, Kashmir solved.
And Dr. Jaishankar also said that trade-related issues with the United States will be resolved through dialogue and mutual agreement. He also said the issue was discussed with US President Trump during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's recent visit to Washington, D.C. India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is currently in the US for further discussions on the matter. The External Affairs Minister made these remarks on Wednesday night during a conversation at Chatham House in London, as I mentioned earlier. While discussing India-US relations in detail, he mentioned that several priorities of the US and its President Donald Trump are beneficial for India.
If I were to look at some of the big priorities of this president, many of them actually work for us. He seems to be, for example, committed to keeping energy prices reasonably affordable and stable. We welcome that. He is putting a lot of emphasis on tech. I think that offers a lot of possibilities, for us. He has a certain view of trade. We had a very open conversation about it. And the result of that conversation was that we agreed on the need for a bilateral trade agreement. And our trade minister, in fact, is there in Washington doing exactly that right now.
And India's Ministry of External Affairs has condemned the provocative activities of a small group of separatists and extremists during the visit of India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, to the UK. According to a statement attributable to the spokesperson of the MEA, I quote, "We have seen the footage of a breach of security during the visit of EAM to the UK. We condemn the provocative activities of this small group of separatists and extremists. We deplore the misuse of democratic freedoms by such elements." End quote. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the North Indian state of Uttarakhand as part of the state's winter tourism program. The PM performed puja at the winter seat of the Ganga River in Mukhwa village. The puja ceremony of the Ganga River took place ahead of a public function in Harshal. The winter tourism program, initiated by the Uttarakhand government, seeks to boost the local economy by promoting religious tourism. With the Prime Minister's visit, the state hopes to further showcase its tourism potential and attract more visitors to the region. Amid thunderous applause and chants of his name, the Prime Minister was felicitated as he arrived on stage in Harsil. Various dignitaries of the Indian government were present on stage along with Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami. Addressing a rally in Harsil, the PM emphasized making Uttarakhand a year-round tourism destination.
सर्दियों में देश के बड़े हिस्से में जब कोहरा होता है, सूर्यदेव के दर्शन नहीं होते, तब पहाड़ों पर धूप का आनंद मिल रहा होता है। ये एक स्पेशल इवेंट बन सकता है। और गढ़वाली में से क्या कहेंगे? घाम तापो पर्यटन। खासकर हमारे कॉरपोरेट वर्ल्ड के साथी वे विंटर टूरिज्म का हिस्सा बने। मीटिंग्स करनी हो, कॉन्फ्रेंसेस करनी हो, एग्जीबिशंस करने हो, तो विंटर का समय और देवभूमि इससे होनहार कोई जगह नहीं हो सकती है। मैं चाहूंगा कि सर्दियों में डेस्टिनेशन वेडिंग के लिए भी उत्तराखंड को देशवासी प्राथमिकता दें।
Let's get you some sports now. India Open 2025 witnessed its official announcement in New Delhi on Thursday. On the occasion, Indian Golf Union's Vice President Brajendra Singh said that they want to make the sport more accessible for all, whereas Sanjay Bhan talked about the important role of corporates in the field of sports. Take a look.
The stage is all set for Indian Open 2025, and we have with us Mr. Brajendra Singh. Sir, when we talk about this particular tournament, Indian Open 2025, you've said that you want to change the perspective from making it and seeing it as an elite sport to bringing it to the grassroots level. How do you tend to make it possible for the players especially?
So you must understand, Hero Indian Open is a showcase event, and we have the best players from the world. Our sponsors, Hero, is bringing them in. That is where these kids want to see themselves. But the journey is tough and it's difficult. All we have to do is bring them, show them, and make sure we give them the facilities. And once we do that, they have a goal in front. So I think that would help a lot.
And in that case, how do you think the corporates can play an important role?
I think corporates like Hero have played a significant role so far and would continue to stay committed. I think the biggest job that corporates have is to bring that spark of inspiration by setting up a tournament as large as the Hero Indian Open, which is now no less than any other international tournament across the world. And people do look forward to come here and play the top best of international players. So when you have a tournament like that in India, the Indian players who are wanting to rub shoulders with international quality players and at that level of competition would genuinely feel very keen to play and get inspired, and that will leave a lot of other youngsters to vie for this sport.
And how do you see the government's role there?
The government is very supportive. See, understand, we need money. Without money, nothing can happen, and you need recognition. So the government is very supportive. They're helping us send these teams overseas. They are looking at us favorably by allowing us to use their facilities. Sai is there, and they've got training facilities. So I must say the government has been very, very supportive.
So there you heard that how golf is creating a new benchmark when we talk about competitive sports, especially in India. Deepika reporting for DD India from New Delhi.
And that's all we have for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. You can scan the QR code and download the app right now on the screen there. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.